Hey everyone, we're going to go over volume of cylinders and volume of cones, but in this first installment, we're going to go through some notes on volume of cylinders to get started. So, a cylinder is a three-dimensional shape, kind of like a prism, but the base is a circle. They want to know, how do we find the volume of a cylinder? Well, volume of a cylinder, like all volume of three-dimensional shapes, is going to end up using this formula. We'll get to that in a second. But a cylinder has two circle or circular, I'm going to use circle, two circle bases connected by a lateral face, but we'll call it the height for now. Okay. And basically, what that picture would look like, this would be called a net. You'd have a circle, you'd have your rectangle, this would be your lateral face, which would be your height. And then if you were to put it all together, this would wrap around the circles in the middle. Okay. Your height would be this space right there. Okay. So now to find the area of the circle, we're going to use the formula A is equal to pi times r squared. Okay, that is the formula for a circle. Now, back to volume. The volume of cylinders is V equals BH. And you can circle this because we're going to use this formula for any three-dimensional shape with the exception of spheres. Capital B is the area of the base. Okay, so if we go through the labeling, just so you can have these notes, V is for volume, B is for area of the base, M is for area of base, shorthand, and H is for height, but it's the height of the cylinder. Okay, so if we go into the next part with the picture, if it says label the base and height, I think it's a good practice to shade in your bases because that way we can really see what's going on there. So we know those are two spaces, our bases, and height is always the space between the bases. So it's easy to see that way, right? Okay. From there, how do we actually apply this formula? Well, to find the volume of a cylinder, any cylinder, we're going to multiply the area of the base, which is B, and multiply that by the height, which is H. Okay. So if we go through this, it's going to be straightforward with using this formula. Um, it says volume for number 1 through 3, round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. So we're going to use a little bit of calculator skills to help us out here. But we have an R, which is 2.3. So R equals 2.3 millimeters. And your H, which is here, these are my bases. H is 11.5 millimeters. If my formula is V equals BH, we can replace B with the area of our base, and the area of our base is equal to pi r squared. From here, we plug everything in, and our formula is pi r squared h. This is our true formula for the volume of a cylinder. But what we're going to do is we're going to plug our numbers in and then use our calculator and round to the nearest hundred. So it should look like V is equal to pi times 2.3 squared times 11.5. Okay, so in your calculator, and I'll turn mine on so we can see. I'm using an Inspire, but this will work with any calculator. So as this is loading through, I don't know why this is taking so long. Bear with me. Hold on, pause this for a second. All right, so back into this, we're going to plug our numbers in. So we're going to find pi or 3.14. I'm going to use 3.14. So 3.14 times 2.3 squared, okay, times 11.5. Okay, so we end up getting 191.02. Since we're rounding to the nearest hundred, V equals 191.02 millimeters cubed. Okay, So wash, rinse, repeat. We're going to try this again with another one. Let's see what information they give us. We have a diameter of 14, so D equals 14. So before we even get started, we need to find our radius. Remember, radius is half a diameter, so radius is 7 centimeters. Our H is 3. I'm shading my bases so we can see that these are my circular bases. H is in between. H is 3 centimeters. Okay, so then once again, we're doing our area of the base times the height, which is V equals BH. V equals pi r squared h. Okay, let's try this one in terms of pi. Okay, so in terms of pi, which you're going to see down here in a little bit, we're going to multiply everything but pi first. Okay, so that's going to be 7 squared, okay, times 3, which is V is equal to pi times all of that, right? But in terms of pi, if I use my calculator, that is 7 squared times 3. That'll be 147. So in terms of pi, my answer is 147 pi, okay, centimeters cubed. And then we multiply it all out, and our final answer, 147 times 3.14 is equal to 461.58. So terms of pi, which I'm going to write terms of pi right here real quick. Okay, this is the first answer. And then the final answer that we'll get used to is 461.58, since we're using nearest hundred, centimeters cubed. Okay, so going forward, we can go through all of these problems one by one, but I think you'll get the hang of it. Volume is multiplying the area of the base, which in this case, the area of the base is the circle, so pi r squared, times the height of the cylinder. We plug in our numbers. We're going to look for our answer in terms of pi first, which means multiply everything except for pi. And then final answer was be multiplied with pi. Okay? So into this terms of pi, we notice in our notes say it's a way to write the volume as an exact answer because pi is irrational. It goes on forever. So to make this exact as possible, we don't use pi because some people use 3.14, some people use 3, some people use the pi symbol. So to be exact as possible, we just don't multiply it out and keep it as simple as possible. So what we're going to do is multiply everything but pi and leave the pi symbol in our solution. So just like we did on number 2, we're going to do that here for I'm going to do number 5 because the radius is already given to us and that'll help us out on some time. So we know r, and first off, this is my base. Notice the base isn't always standing up, but r is equal to 3.2 centimeters. Make sure we're labeling. That's really helpful when we're talking about our units, right? H is 21 centimeters. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to multiply everything except for pi. We know that V is equal to BH, which equals pi r squared h, right? We're going to multiply everything. So in this parentheses here, we're going to multiply all of those and then add pi at the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply 3.2 squared. So 3.2 squared times 21. So let's do that really quickly. Over here, we have 3.2 squared times 21. And that gives me 215.04. Okay, so that equals 215.04. We'll add pi at the end. So in terms of pi, I'm going to write terms of pi equals 215.04 pi. Okay, now final answer is to multiply all of this. So pi, because V equals pi times 3.2 squared times 21. Okay, so we're going to add this to the end. 215.04 times 3.14. Okay, our final answer is going to be 675.2, and to the nearest hundredth, which it doesn't say, but we're going to go nearest hundredth, 200.23. centimeters cubed or cubic centimeters. So what I did was I took this answer in terms of pi and multiplied it by 3.14 or pi, whichever your choice. Okay, and this would be my final answer. There is a lot of work that goes into these, but for the most part, we should be good to go. We'll do a couple of word problems here in a second on the second video, but hopefully that gives you a decent understanding of volume of a cylinder. So remember, volume is equal to the area of the base times the height, where the area of the base in this case for circles is a circle, pi r squared, and we multiply it times the height, which is the space in between. You plug in your numbers in the formula where they belong, and then round to the nearest tenth or hundred, depending on what they ask you to. Remember, terms of pi gives us an exact answer with pi being left out, and then the final answer, which will be with different decimals, depending on whether you use 3.14 or the pi symbol. So pay attention to those details. Make sure when you're looking at word problems, read carefully because they might ask for different things. Okay, so subscribe, like, follow, share, comment, all of that stuff, and be on the lookout for more content. Thanks for watching my video.